Imagine a place where innovation meets community, where entrepreneurs and risk takers gather to celebrate the spirit of Detroit, where there's common cause strengthening our city, neighborhoods, and economy. That place is Tech Town Detroit, and their major celebration and benefit each year is Toast of the Town. On Wednesday, September 25th, join the vibrant ecosystem of startups, small businesses, and visionaries who are shaping Detroit's future. From tech demos to food tastings, it's a sensory journey through the city's entrepreneurial landscape. See, this isn't just an event, it's a testament to 20 years of driving positive change in the Motor City. So whether you're a founder, a foodie, or just fascinated by urban innovation, Toast of the Town is your ticket to support this nonprofit. And hey, I wanted to tell you about it because I'll be there along with your favorites from the show. After all, our studio is in Tech Town. Get your tickets now at techtowndetroit.org. That's techtowndetroit.org. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Daily Detroit, sharing what to know and where to go in Southeast Michigan. It is Wednesday, September 17th, 2024. I am Jer Stays, and joining me at our studio in Tech Town is none other than Fletcher Sharpe. Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we have a number of stories we're going to talk about. We're going to get into a little bit of local news, and then we're going to talk a little bit of Lions. All right, let's start with some big news for music fans and Detroit history buffs. I went to a press event on Monday where officials from the Motown Museum announced that its highly anticipated expansion will open to visitors in the summer of 2026. This marks a significant milestone for the project, which was first announced back in 2016. This was one of those things where I'm like, is this thing going to happen? And then the pandemic, all the other stuff. The expansion will see the museum grow to 50,000 square feet, featuring interactive exhibits, a performance theater, recording studios, and more. All of this will be built behind the iconic Hitsville, USA building. So think West Grand Boulevard near Holden, kind of like parked in there by Ferry Park, actually, it's a street. Robin Terry, the museum's chairwoman and CEO, said that the fundraising efforts have now reached $70 million, just shy of their $75 million goal. Construction on the final phase is set to begin this month, with the entire process expected to take about 18 to 20 months. The expansion isn't just about preserving music history, it's also expected to have a significant impact on the surrounding Detroit neighborhoods, providing employment opportunities and boosting tourism in the area. For Motown fans eagerly awaiting this opening, it may seem like a long wait, but as the Supremes once sang, Fletcher, you can't hurry love. Or in this case, a world-class museum expansion. Fletcher, I think this has been a long time coming. You know, I always felt it was a huge miss. We didn't have more when it comes to Motown. I always loved the Berry Gordy House and all that other stuff. But, you know, when I travel, Memphis, New Orleans, other places, there's just like so much about music history. And not to throw shade, it was there before, but I always thought this was a missed opportunity to not have more Motown stuff.
I mean, if people want to complain about a wait for until 2026, like they've been waiting since 2016. Like I think 2 more years it's like fine to like wait for the full expansion. But I
always wondered why this didn't happen in the 2000s.
Yeah. I like the Motown Museum. I don't think I'm like the biggest music buff, but I thought I knew a few things. But like you go there and you get to hear a few hit songs, see some records, and you realize like, oh, this today's song that I like sampled this song or sampled this, and it's like just hearing that and just kind of it falling into places like, wow, so many things, not just genres, not just artists, but so many different things in music, like all started not just in this state, but like in this little area with like the few artists who were here, and just like the tendrils from that reaching through time is like amazing. And I didn't realize how big the music, like I knew, of course, when you live by something, you know, like it's like this is pretty big, but also like whatever. Until like I bumped into a German couple downtown one time at the dime store, and we were just talking about some stuff. I'm like, oh, what are you guys here for? They're like, oh, the Motown Museum. And I was like, oh. And I was like, the Motown. They're like, yeah, we've came all the way. And I was like, wow. And like just I realized at that point, like people come from not just the state, but just all over the world to come here and experience it. So to grow something like this, to help bring more people into the city and experience not just like the city, but like the real deep roots of the city is like an amazing, amazing thing. And a chance to do that is like welcome by me.
My favorite part of the tour, last time I went, and it was a while ago, great guide, and got into the audio nerdery of it all. And what I mean by that is Today, there's a bunch of things you can just click on your computer for effects, right? But back then, they would literally do stuff like sing into the attic to create a reverb. All of these practical effects, I think, is just so cool to see. There's just something about like using those things. Even like when I think about old movies and Foley artists, that kind of stuff fascinates me.
Yeah, like the camera angles, and like if you want to have, a child talking on your record, it's like, okay, we just hit the AI, boop, boop, boop. Back then, it's like you hold your kid up and hope they don't say anything foul, and it's like, all right, speaking to the microphone. To see what it is now is just amazing in its own technological right, but like I think to fully understand how great it is, you have to go back and see like how things were before. So this museum getting expanded to give more people a chance to see not just what's already there, but the expansion of it is it's a very big opportunity.
Well, the city of Detroit is gearing up for election season as city clerk Janice Winfrey announced an unprecedented 16 days of early voting. Starting October 19th and running through November 3rd, Detroiters will have access to 14 early vote centers across the city. These centers will be open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., including weekends, offering voters flexibility to cast their ballots at their convenience. Unlike many Michigan cities providing the minimum 9-day period, Detroit is going above and beyond to ensure maximum accessibility for its residents. This initiative is part of Michigan's new statewide early voting system, a result of Proposal 2 passed back in 2022. The early vote centers will function similarly to Election Day polling places, complete with on-site tabulators and bipartisan oversight. The move has garnered praise from voting rights advocates. Democracy is more accessible than ever, Fletcher Sharpe now, and I think this is a good thing because one of the things that has depressed Detroit turnout is you have so many people who've just got jobs to do, man. Like they've got to, people forget that a huge percentage of Detroit residents don't have cars. People forget that, you're working that shift. You're working a shift and a double. It's really hard to get out there sometimes. Sure, there's absentee voting, but the idea that you can go there in person, and I'm not against absentee voting or voting by mail, but I'm one of those like old school guys who's just like, I like to vote in person. And I feel like I'm going to use this.
One of the most jarring things moving from Detroit to Grosse Pointe was, one, how many people vote like absentee voting. And I was just like, where are you going? They're like, I just don't want to go in. I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's the no reason, yeah.
But like, it's also the fact that no matter what time I went to go vote in Grosse Pointe, like it was always just not empty, but like manageable. It's like at most you might wait 20 minutes. When I lived downtown and I had to vote then, and I lived on the west side, and it was like the quickest time to vote was at least like an hour and a half. And like I was going during the morning, and I can't imagine what it was like during the middle of the day and at the end. And you get sometimes where it's like polls close at 8 and you look out and like the line is still going, wrapping around the building. And it's like this is not good for the voters. This is not good for the workers. All it's doing is creating more strife and putting more tension on the votes being counted. Where when you open up the early voting from not just 9 days to 16 days, not only does it allow people to vote earlier, it then helps the people near the end where it's like we're not having to have everyone stand here and vote. Polls close at 8, but like we're not done actually having people vote until like 10:15. Like it helps release the tension there and allows people to get in, cast their vote comfortably, get out. I think doing this helps the congestion near the end, and no one wants congestion for anything.
Before we get to the Lions, we do need to talk about a tragic story, as there was a shooting at Eastern Market in Detroit over the weekend, leaving 2 people dead. This took place around 4:30 p.m. at Shed 6 after the Detroit Lions game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people said it was during the tailgate. It was not. It was afterward. According to the Detroit Police Chief James White, the shooting stemmed from an altercation between 2 individuals. The situation escalated when an Oak Park man in his 30s pulled out a gun and fired at least twice into the crowd. The victims were both Detroit residents. One was a man in his 40s who was pronounced dead at the scene, and the other, a man in his 20s, who we learned died at the hospital. Police officers who were in the area for post-game traffic control responded quickly after hearing gunshots. They caught the suspect, who has a license to carry a concealed weapon. The shooting reportedly occurred in front of thousands of people, most who were leaving the Lions game at Ford Field. police are continuing their investigation. Look, Fletcher, whether it's this, apparently the city of Berkeley is looking at banning carnivals in their community, recent shootings in Romulus and other places. Like, oh man, this is not great, Fletcher Sharpe. Like this is not it's a terrible thing to happen. It's not a great look. And it's something that I feel like we need to address this whole, like, how do we figure out how people solve issues a lot better?
Jumping from the Motown Museum, which is like a great thing to bring in more people into the city, to a situation like this is super jarring, because this is the exact opposite thing you want to put up there. And a shooting is bad. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like a shooting, even if it's justified, as bad. But a shooting in a public place where like people's children are and like a friend of mine was there and she posted on Facebook, like, there's been a shooting at Eastern Market. And for a minute, no one said anything, because we're like, she's like, no, her status was a man died at Eastern Market. And we're like, what? And then the story came out and it was like, I asked her, like, did you see what happened? One, to check on her, but two, for some journalists. And she's like, yes, like, there was a scuffle. Two people were yelling. Kind of got my two daughters and got back a bit. And then we heard two loud pops and everyone just fled away. And she was like, it was a really nice scene. Everything looked very nice until the shots fired. Then, of course, chaos erupted. And from what I read, like, two people were having a disagreement. They raised hands to fight each other. And then the 30-year-old pulled out a gun and fired at the person, fired into the crowd, which is apparently what most people are. And, like, if that's the case, like, just fight. Like, I'm not saying that you need to have rumbles everywhere, but like, if you're going to have a scuffle, like, have a scuffle, get punched, deal with it, and then everyone gets to live till the next day. But when you do stuff like this, not only do you alter people's lives who were struck, not the person who you meant to shoot, but like someone in the crowd who got hit, who passed away, you alter your own life, because now, like, you, whether you're registered or not, you now will definitely have some legal proceedings that need to happen. And, like, you alter the lives of everyone who just witnessed this horrible thing happen. Like, maybe no one got hit, maybe no one was nearby, but, like, they just watched someone fall down and potentially pass away. And it's such a timeline-altering event to have it happen, and we just need to figure out a way to make it stop. But I don't think canceling carnivals is right, Berkeley. Don't do that. Kids love carnivals and cotton candy and Ferris wheels. Don't take that away from them.
Well, I noticed this is part of that increased security that you're seeing all over downtown Detroit and a number of events where you basically have a security perimeter now. You saw it over at the Jazz Fest. People wonder, why is it the free event has security perimeters? This is a big part of why now. And I think you're going to see that even more often, where it's just like you get into the fence line in order to do it. You can't carry weapons. You can't, you're going to get scanned. Like, these are the kind of things that we even saw with the opening of Michigan Central. There was that for that event, the perimeter, which really bums me out as somebody who's a little bit older and from a generation where you could just do stuff. But I understand, as much as it makes my heart heavy. I understand.
Like when the Super Bowl came here and just people could, I won't say you can walk around freely, but it's like you wanted to explore downtown during the Super Bowl. I was a young kid, but it's like you could go almost anywhere. There's certain places you need a badge to access or you need a wristband. But like, you want to just go to the NFL experience and hang out, throw a few footballs, for sure. But like, we cover the draft and it's like, you want to come in here? Cool. Here's 2 metal detectors and you might get patted down. We have to check your bag.
And we had badges.
And it's like, yeah, we're media. It's like, yeah, cool. Like, come here. And it's like, okay, like, this is just today.
Yeah. Let's get into that football game, Fletcher. Let's talk about the Lions' loss. 2016, head coach Dan Campbell put it on himself in the post-game press conference. Was he right to do that, Fletcher, or was there more to this loss?
Very much on the coaching. Not explicitly all him, but like the coaching in court. Everyone except Aaron Glenn. He called a really great game defensively. Aiden Hutchinson had an amazing game. 4.5, 5.5 sacks. One-man wrecking crew. I don't like to give props to people from, Divine Child or Catholic Central, but like Aiden Hutchinson, for real, put the Catholic League on his back and the rest of the city as well to get out there and hit Baker Mayfield that many times. But play calling near the end, head scratching, running a lot of routes right short of the first down marker and then trying to that doesn't make any sense. I don't know when that started and to be like the normal thing in the NFL, but like it frustrates me so much. Like if you need to go 5 yards for a first down, go 6. Go 6 and make your route. Don't go 3 and then stop, because all they got to do is tackle you there and then it's over. That happened a few times. Some situations, Jared Goff had a not awesome game. I looked at the metrics. He's had 8 passes this year that should have been picked off in 2 games. 3 have been picked off, but the interception he threw, the second one, he needs to just take the sack. And like, I know getting hit is not fun. Getting hit in high school was not fun for me. I'm sure getting hit in the pros is definitely not fun. But if he just taken the sack, Jake Bates goes out there, kicks a field goal, most likely makes it. Maybe he does. Most likely makes it. Cool. Lions are now in a manageable distance, and they come down for the next game-winning drive. All they need is a field goal. Get a field goal, bleed the clock, you're good. Instead, you throw an interception there, get the ball back. Now you have to try to force for another touchdown, and then you start having these really terrible play calls. It puts you in a really bad spot. So, yeah, when Dan Campbell said it's on me, it's not explicitly all on him. He is the head coach. But, like, it's the coaching let the team down.
I feel like we've had this conversation, though, and if he wins, everybody loves it. If this is something where it becomes a pattern, then people are going to start to ask questions. I feel like this is part of that all or nothing style with Dan Campbell.
It is, and I at least admire the fact that he has the humility, and like some people are like his ego is going to get the team in trouble. And like to a degree, it is ego to think we're going to do this, but also you can give a play to a player and say, do this, and they could do something else entirely. But I admire the fact that his first thing was like, this is me. Like I asked the players to step up from the first week and be better, and they were all better. And this loss is on me. And I appreciate the fact they have a coach who can admit that, because you can grow from that. You can't grow from a coach like Matt Patricia, who is like, the players didn't do everything right, and I'm a genius. And it's like, yeah, you're a genius, and your team has lost 14 games. So like, you know, they can grow from this. It's not the season's not over. The sky's not falling on them. They have a chance to right the ship. They're just 1-1. I mean, last year they started 1-1. They got to NFC Championship. So like, you know, season can go forward. It's just, it stinks to lose a game that you probably should have won, because those are the margins between potentially winning your division and potentially being a wild card slot, or being a wild card slot and not making the playoffs.
Fletcher, before we go, I want to talk about Tua Tagovailoa really quick, because Lions fans have actually dealt with this a couple of times. I know you've got an example, but you and I were talking off air. You've got some personal experience with this. Over the years, this has been referred to, getting your bell rung. If you didn't know, the Miami Dolphins quarterback got hit again, another concussion, got a lot of people talking. And I know a lot of people were very upset that they've seen the same player get hit again and again, but this is something that is part of football that I feel like we're going to have to address a little bit. And you have some personal experience with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not Lions related, but I know Lions fans can definitely think about it. Javid Best, running back out of Cal, small number 44, who was just lightning quick and was like slated to be one of the best running backs the Lions had in a while. And he had suffered one major concussion, and he just never recovered from that. And he was out of football like 2 or 3 years after. And yeah, I have some personal experience with that. I've suffered probably 7 or 8 total concussions in my life. Definitely 2 or 3 grade 3 concussions, which are grade 3. There's 3 grades. Grade 1 is like, you get your bell rung a bit, you're kind of woozy, but you're fine. Grade 2 is when your brain hits up against one side of your skull and you're kind of like, ooh, I need a second to sit. And grade 3 is like when the alarm bells go off, your brain hits up against all sides of your skull like a pinball, and all of a sudden, like, you're having some neurological issue of like, oh, I'm tensing. Like when you see people get hit and like they lay there and they start getting really tense for no reason and they're unconscious, that's a grade 3. I suffered maybe 2 or 3 of those in the span of like almost a decade. Tua's suffered 3 of those definitively in the past 2 years. And like, that's terrifying. Because you know that there's like, I've suffered some personality changes. I won't go into all of that, but like I've suffered some personality changes. I used to be really great at math, a few other things that happened before that don't happen now, and some things that didn't happen before that do happen now. So I know for a fact there's like some stuff there. And again, some people like football for the skill. Some people like football for, hometown representation. Some people like football for just like the gore of it. I get to watch grown men hit each other at high speed and knock each other over. And I understand that that's just part of football. Like you can't, if you take that away from football, like you're kind of taking away a lot of football. Not all of it and not even half of it, but like a fair amount of football.
Well, a lot of football that frankly the people like, because people are into football because it's violent. That's just the bottom line, you know?
But like something has to be done to try to limit. And I understand like they've put out some stuff to say like, oh, quarterback should slide. And this specific hit, Tua probably could have gotten down and slid, and he chose to take the hit instead. And unfortunately, we all saw what happened. He was carted off again. And just it's a much bigger conversation from this moment, and we'll be sure to probably speak about it again in the future, unfortunately. But like something needs to be done to protect players in a way that allows them still to play and allows them to be safer. I know they made these new helmets, the Halo cap helmets, and just maybe make them mandatory. I'm not really sure, but something else needs to be done to make sure these players can like walk off the field as opposed to being carted off.
Well, I'd love your thoughts. dailydetroit@gmail.com on this or anything else that we talked about. Fletcher Sharpe, so good to talk to you, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
With that, I'm Jair Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Cheyenne Nosarini, who's been editing the show behind the scenes. Much appreciated. Thank you to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/dailydetroit. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll talk tomorrow.